Greetings, friends, and welcome to another playdate in Sheffy's Sandbox. Our guest today is writer E.A. Williams. Unfortunately, I lost the audio to the introductory segment where she ordered her mocha at the virtual coffee house before we hit the virtual beach, but the rest was captured and it's here for your listening pleasure. In this Memorial Day episode, we want to give a special shout out to the 2nd Battalion, 5th Cavalry, in memory of our brother, Specialist Adam Webb Scheffler, aka Sheffy. I know you have not yet heard from our co-host Stephen. He is on a nursing assignment in New York City with the COVID-19 effort. But as soon as he's able, he'll be joining the show. There is a fantastic article written about him that I'm including in the show notes for this podcast that I hope you'll check out. In the meantime, I'm doing my best hosting the show solo, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with E.A. Williams as much as I did. So we only allow unfamous people on this podcast, so we need to determine whether you meet that bar or not. What could be your 5-second claim to fame?
Oh, my 5-second claim to fame. I really don't think I have any claims to fame.
I would say, if I had to say, I would think it'd be that you are a published author, and you've had a book signing before. I think.
So I guess that would be my claim to fame.
Okay. All right. So even though you're a rising star, I think you're qualified to be on our show.
Yay.
All right, so we'll do this next segment. It's one of my favorite, linguistic tag. So guests were asked to choose a word or phrase that they would like to hear used more often in everyday conversation. Something that doesn't get enough play, enough airtime. The prior guest chose mythological. So you are tasked to try to somehow fit that into our conversation today.
Okay.
Got it?
I got it.
Okay, so now you also get to choose a word for the next guest to dance with. Could be a peculiar word that you find funny or something that resonates with you. What are you laying down for them to pick up?
I think that I am going to lay down the word cottywomple.
Okay. I wasn't expecting.
Cracks me up. That word cracks me up. I love it.
Can you give us a definition?
It means to travel purposefully toward an as yet unknown destination.
Okay. I think I do that more often than
I think we all
I use the word for.
I think we honestly all do. I mean, every time, we feel like getting in the car and just going to, for a drive, no destination, just getting out on the road, we're cottywompeling around,
So it sounds like you do use that in your own day-to-day conversation. You feel it sounds like you're comfortable with that word.
I am. I stumbled across that word actually while I was writing a book, and it kind of fit the context, and I just fell in love with that word. I mean, it's a funny word, cracks me up, and people do it every day, so it's like one of my favorite words.
Do people look at you funny when you use it?
Sometimes, yes.
So do you remember where you heard that used?
I honestly
that word first
don't.
used?
I think that what I was doing, I was looking for 1800s grammar and, certain words that are kind of outdated. And it was honestly just a Google search and just.
I'm gonna see how that word came about, because to me, honestly, when I hear it, I'm thinking of a cat that's just kind of slinking around with no particular.
I think that the word for that actually is cattywampus.
Okay, well, I thought cattywampus was more like where something was off kilter, like where it was not steady.
That's true. That's very, very true. And I mean, I actually knew a cat. Well, I have a friend that had a cat that she named Cattywampus, and she was very off center, and
Oh
she
my.
would cattywampus around. So I think that that's why I kind of connected the two. It reminded me of that.
Well, I like it. So just I'll tell the next guest that they have to use cattywampus. No, yes.
Cotty,
No, what is the word again?
it's Cottywomple.
Cottywomple. Okay. I'm gonna make sure I write it down. That way I get it correct when I'm telling them what it is. But anyway, okay. So you're tasked with mythological this
Yes.
podcast. Okay. All right. Now let's go to social presence. How can people find out more about you and follow what you're making in your own sandbox?
Well, I am on basically all social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, under Write E.A. Williams. For Instagram is writer_E.A.Williams. And Twitter is Write E.A. Williams. And
speaking of Twitter, it sounds like you have birds. Are you in your backyard?
I'm actually sitting out front. You know, we're having coffee at the beach, so I decided to come outside, hang out and get some fresh air. It's nice out right now, and yeah, birds are everywhere.
I like it.
And then
Okay.
Facebook is also writer E.A. Williams.
And you are published. You have, I know you have a short story, at least that's in an anthology.
Yes.
I read, and that stuck with me. Can you tell us where people can find that short story? You know what I'm talking about? The woman that collected the pictures.
Oh, Soul Reaper. Yes, that is on Sirens Call publication eZine. So it's an online magazine, and it's issue 47.
Check it out, folks. I like it. I think that had something unique to offer, and I find myself thinking about it pretty frequently.
Well, thank you.
So what else do you have? I have had the pleasure of reading part of your book, The Lane, that has not been published yet, as far as I know. And yeah, I've gotten to the part where I don't think it's giving too much away when there's a mysterious, there's some jewelry found in the yard,
Yes.
and there's some type of mystery linked to that.
Yes.
And so that's where I left off. So I'm still waiting for you to send me the other chapters.
Okay, I will definitely get those sent over to you. And yes, right now it's not published. Still actively searching for an agent. So that's kind of where I am with The Lane at the moment.
Now, what has been published is, can you tell us about the dragons?
Yes. Dragons Within Claiming Her Wings is an anthology made up of 12 authors. So Spirit of the Dragon is my short story that's included in that anthology, and that can be found on Amazon or on the Balance of Seven website, which is the publisher.
Now, I wanted to ask you something about the female characters in what you write. They all seem very strong, very, very strong women. And I know I asked you, at least when I was reading The Lane, does this character feel any type of self-consciousness about this or that? And you're like, nope. And I was like, okay, great. Well, she's nothing like me then.
Well, I think that, that all women in their own right, we're all strong. And we have our own independence in a multitude of things. And we're all unique. We're all different. And one person can be self-conscious about one thing, and then someone else can be completely self-conscious about something else. Me personally kind of resonate with the female character of Elaine with her eating habits, which as you read, you will discover her eating habits. I have no shame when it comes to my food. I will eat the greasiest, juiciest burger in front of anybody and not even care. I mean, so her character, she just has that, I don't care, take me for who I am, what I am. If you don't like it, look the other way, and which I think is kind of an attitude that more women need to adopt, and not a rude tone, but just being comfortable in their own skin, being comfortable with their own habits, and not feeling ashamed for who and what they are. And I think that that's pretty important to display in our everyday life along with our writing, because we want our readers to feel connected with our characters, and giving that impression that, hey, this character has no filter, she doesn't care, she's independent, she's strong. I need to carry that too. I need to be more like that.
I was just saying, thinking to myself, I mean, that's some great medicine that I could use, in my own life. Do you feel like that's do you resonate with that character? Do you feel like you're at a point where you care less what other people think?
To a point. Like, completely honest, there are some characteristics that I really don't care what people think about me for certain things, and then other things I'm very self-conscious about. But I think that we all have that. I mean, we're all a little self-conscious, we're all a little intimidated from time to time, and that's normal. We just have to try to do what we can to break out of that shell. And by putting ourselves out there a little bit more frequently and doing things that we are comfortable with behind closed doors out in public, kind of helps to boost that confidence that, I don't care, take me for what I am, and this is me, all of it, good, bad, and ugly. That's just how it is.
Do you feel like part of that you've been like that since you were younger?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of things that, I did then that I do now, that it's just, okay, well, this is me. If you don't like it, well, you don't have to. There's things about you I don't like either, kind of thing, but there are still some things that I'm trying to kind of come out of the shell a little bit with, and do a little bit more, be a little bit more present, for myself, to get that confidence to where it doesn't bother me to go out and, mow the lawn in, shorts and a tank top without feeling insecure, or, which I know is something silly, but, a lot of women feel that way. And, so just making sure that I do things intentionally that takes me out of my comfort zone, so that way I can begin to become comfortable, which I think is a big step that everybody needs to do.
Correct. I did soul collage for the first time yesterday, and if you were like me, you've never heard of soul collage, check out the website. But it's a process of putting together different images that speak to you. And so yesterday it was a pretty powerful experience when I was talking to the group about the images I had put together. And what it was telling me is that as a kid, I needed to be invisible.
Mm.
And I heard you, like you were saying, just being out in the front yard with a tank top and shorts, uh, I hear you, and I feel that because, you know, I don't know, growing up, you were supposed to not have any intention,
Yes.
bring any attention towards yourself,
Yes.
for several reasons.
Yes.
Uh, so,
I know that.
and then I didn't have to be short, but yes, just the fact that you have a female body,
Yes.
like you somehow owe it to the world to be invisible and not be seen, or else you're you're asking for
Exactly. And that's not
something.
right. I mean, we shouldn't have to, control what we wear and how we present ourselves in fear of what might happen and how we would be blamed for it. That's a very antique way of thinking, and it's not, these are modern times, and it's just not right that we have to bend or think or feel that we have to bend and change our habits and our comfort to appease other people. And so I think that just breaking, some of those bricks off the wall and crawl out of that mentality and that fear and just letting loose and gaining your own self-comfort is a necessity for everybody. I mean, not just, specifically women, but there's even men too, that, they can't think or feel or say certain things without the finger being pointed at them that they are doing X, Y, and Z when that's not the case. So I think that, everybody just needs to kind of do something that they are uncomfortable with in public in order to gain that comfort.
Okay. Well, let's tell our listeners how we first met.
Yes.
Would you like to say it, or would you like me to?
You can
Go
ball
into
rolling,
that?
yeah.
Okay. Well, from what I remember, we attended the same church, and there was a church school,
Yes.
a tiny church school, like
Room school.
2-room. Yes, a 2-room school, a parochial church school there, and you were a student, and I think you were maybe 6th, 7th grade, and I was like homeschooling myself
Yes.
slash a teacher's aide.
Yes.
And so I would help out the teachers grading papers, being line attendant or whatever. And then whenever the students were busy, I would be doing my own, homeschool work. And so that's how I met you. You were one of the students
Yep.
there. And so we got to play soccer and pick up baseball, whatever
Yes.
the little church group was doing.
Yes.
And I associate you with a few memories. One of those was Titanic. Like, I have you equals the movie Titanic. Right? Because didn't that come out like that year that I was
I
there?
think so, yes. Because yeah, I started that school in 7th grade. I left the public school system and started there. And yeah, I was completely hooked on Titanic. I think I went to the theater and saw that movie like 20 times.
I think I remember you talking about that, and that's why like I associated you with like romanticism slash Titanic.
Yes, I was obsessed with Leonardo DiCaprio. So
Has that carried on? You still a big fan?
no, I like the movie. I
No?
still love. I like the movie, but I haven't watched it in years. Nor have I listened to the soundtrack either. It's been a long time actually, but I was definitely obsessed there for a while.
So have you watched any of his newer
I
movies?
haven't. I
No.
need
Okay.
to. I really do. There's a few that I want to see that I just haven't gotten around to yet.
Another memory I associate with you is you had your hair cut short, and then you had that one long braid that was longer than all the rest of it.
Oh my gosh. I wish I could rewind time and just not even have that, but yes. Yes, I had that for a while. Why? I could not tell you. I have no idea, but I actually saw a picture a while back of that, and I was looking at it thinking, what was I thinking? What was going through my head?
At least it's not a tattoo,
Oh,
right?
this is true. This is true. That came later in life, but this is true.
So at that church, we both went through our studies and we got
Yes.
baptized at the same
Yes.
time. And I don't believe either one of us, you can correct me, but I don't think either one of us are uh, at the same place we were in our faith journey as we were then. But I mean, and you would hope not. People always change and grow.
Exactly.
But one of the things I feel like I can take away from that experience is I felt that that particular faith um, was more about a little less on personal interpretation of the Bible and more on study.
Yes.
Like we, I don't know about you, but my family, like they had us like studying like in the scriptures. Let's not take this out of context, but like read these 300 other scriptures that all, come together to make this one point.
Yes.
And I I guess it was one of those introductions to being different because it wasn't a mainstream Christian denomination, and
Exactly.
so if I told people what church I attended, they would be like, "Oh my gosh, you're in a cult," you know.
Yes, I've heard that. Over the years, whenever I'm asked how my husband and I met, because we met at that
Mm-hmm.
church as well, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you guys met in a cult?" And no, it's like, "Oh my goodness." But looking back, I mean, no, I agree with you, very much so on what you were saying, and faith definitely has changed, and it it was definitely this is how it is. This is what you have to study. And your opinion, your questions, you need to study more, kind of thing is my experience, what I was told, kind of thing. And I think that I was the biggest rebel out of that church. I would, wear makeup to school or makeup to church, even if it was like a little lip gloss or something. And I would be in so much trouble. I
Well, again, because it goes back to the fact that, I think it sounds like both of us were raised, you need to be
Yes.
invisible. And so, like, I don't know about you, but even nail
Yes.
polish was discouraged by my dad.
Yes.
Like, what's next? Toenail polish?
Exactly. And
Like,
thankfully,
what's wrong?
well, thankfully in my house, in my home, I could put on makeup and, play with makeup. I could paint my nails. It was a lot more laxed at home. But at the church, that was a completely different story. I had to be sure that that nail polish was off and there was not a stitch of makeup on my face, no jewelry, nothing, because I would, get into a lot of trouble between some of the elders and the pastor. And whenever I was attending the school, I would get in trouble with the teachers. And, I looking back now, I get it. But I mean, I had gone to a public school for so long and I was used to being able to somewhat be an individual and have my own fashion choices and my style taste. And whenever you're kind of a goth girl and going into a church school, that's not the easiest transformation to make. I mean, because
Mm-hmm.
black is still my signature color, and it definitely was back then. And so that I got a lot of judgment, based off of that. And I don't feel, my personal opinion, that, whenever you walk into a church, you should not feel like you're going to burst into flames, because of what you're wearing. That to me doesn't feel like church. And I mean, it's been a very long time, since I've been there. And, I met some amazing people. You're one of them. I met my husband. I still have a few friends from the church. A few even still attend the church, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that specific faith wasn't for me, and I'm still kind of on a road to discovering what is right for me, and that's okay. I mean, like you said, different stages of life, what we need to fulfill ourselves, and, just kind of figure that out along the way.
Mm-hmm. If you're like me and you've wanted to make a podcast ever since podcasts became a thing, then I encourage you to check out Anchor. Anchor is what I use to create podcasts. I always thought I didn't have the know-how or the resources to create a podcast. The research made it all feel too overwhelming, and then I discovered Anchor. It's free, easy. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So speaking of different journeys, you and I have we had no idea when we were younger, like what we would both enjoy writing and find fulfillment in that. But we are taking different approaches to
Yes.
this, whereas I have kind of not necessarily given up, but given up on, the whole traditional publishing route. I've done a lot of I've done the self-publishing, uh, and that has been so rife with complications and things I had no idea that even were things until I got into this process. And you have gone the more traditional route, and so the different ways of approaching the same thing, which is wanting to share uh, our art and our craft with
Yes.
others. So what can you tell us about how that's working for you?
It's still slow. It's still new, but it's very exciting. And I mean, I think that as a creative, and that's any form of creativity, any form of art, whether it's painting or sculptures or writing, we have a story to tell within that art. And we want to share that with the world. Otherwise, why do it? I mean, some people are closet writers and they write just for them, and that's great. But one day, they might decide to publish that. And there are so many differences between traditional and indie publishing, self-publishing. And I'm still trying to figure it all out myself. I really am. Like I said, I'm still in that area of looking for an agent, because that will definitely make life so much easier. Having a literary agent that can get your work in with editors and with publishers and kind of be that quote unquote middleman to explain things to you and to get, all, contracts, this, that, and the other taken care of. I know the majority of the authors that I know are self-published authors, and it is definitely a huge process from what I've been told. It's complicated between book covers and sales and, and just there's so much to do with it. And I definitely commend anyone who is a self-published author, because that takes a lot of work, a lot of expense, and you're doing it solely because you want to share your work. You're proud of it.
Oh my gosh, Elizabeth. Yes. Like before this whole thing, if I had heard someone was self-published, if I'm being completely honest, I've been, wow, they're a little self-involved. Like this is just a vanity
Right.
project. It wasn't good enough, for someone legitimate, to publish them. They had to go and do it
Right.
themselves. This whole process has changed that completely. I honestly, even if your one's book is fluff and I don't know, I commend them for the process that it took them to get it
Yeah.
to that point where it's
Yes.
self-published. It's like, wow, good for you.
Exactly.
Kudos. Like I
Exactly. It's like you have to have a very
wow.
special mindset and heart of dedication for that. And who knows what the future holds? I might end up self-publishing something one day. I don't know. It just kind of depends on how things go. But I would have to look at.
So you've had to like write query
Yes.
letters and other things that I haven't had
Yes.
to even look at. So what does that look
Well,
like?
and I'm still figuring this out too. I think I actually am going to kind of revamp my query letter a little, to see if maybe I have better luck. Um, but you generally, of course, do your research, find your agents, make sure that your story is going to be a good fit for said agent. Otherwise, you're wasting not just your time, but you're wasting their time too. So definitely make sure that you are finding agents within your genre, subgenre, look at the books that they are interested in. There's normally always a small biography and what the agent looks for. So definitely pay attention to that. And they basically guide you for submissions. They let you know, give me your query, or we want, the first chapter, the first 3 chapters. They kind of tell you what they want. But the query letter itself, it's just, you don't want to say to whom it concerns. That's not very professional. You want to make sure that you utilize their name. And then you have like this small little blurb per se about your book. You kind of want to hit certain points on what it's about, the plot, any twists, this, that, or the other, throw something in there that raises an eyebrow, like, okay, well, what is that? I'm kind of interested. And then you give a small biography about yourself with your, if you've published anything, whether it's self-published or traditionally published, any awards that you've won, for your work, and then your media information. I've learned that a lot of agents look at your media and they want to see what type of following presence you have, and kind of look at content and things like that to see how dedicated you really are to your craft.
And one has to be pretty
Yes.
dedicated, right? Because it takes a lot of energy to continue to put stuff out there on, at least I know from my point of view, it takes a lot of willpower. Just keep on putting stuff out there, keep on putting something out there. Because I mean, if you can see the views, at the bottom of each post, like how many people it reached, and it can be kind of discouraging, like if it's still, less than 20. If I'm being honest, it's like, what am I doing wrong? What is it that people aren't, are they not finding something that speaks to them, that they don't find valuable?
Right.
But I have gotten to the point where, even if it's for nobody else, I'm doing it for me. So if it's something I would like to know about, an event I would like to have shared, then I'm going to post it. And then I'm just going to keep on doing me. You do
That's
you, boo.
right.
That's
right. And people eventually will find you. Sometimes it takes time for people to find you. And hashtags, like, never in my life did I ever think that I would be using the £sign as a hashtag, that they would be, so important, but they really are.
That dates us. Yes.
Yes.
£sign.
Book nerd,
I remember when that became a hashtag
it's
too.
so funny. But yes, those hashtags are actually pretty essential for your posts, and that's what really draws people to you, is the hashtags. So there's several that are really good for people in the writing community, and writing community is one of them. So like writer's life, book nerd. I love using word nerd because, hello, we're writers. We are word nerds. So,
and what's your word again?
See,
Word
nerd,
okay.
right here. But like, I have several funny words that I just love, and they crack me up. And I think whenever you're writing, any kind of historical piece, some of those words are pretty essential, so that way it feels more within that era, and you're bringing back a few words that have kind of lost itself along the way. So it's so much fun.
Well, if I can say, I like what you post.
Thank you.
I find it's valuable. When because like all this social media stuff, it says you need to have like 3 posts on social media a day, to keep momentum and followers. And you know what? Honestly, if it's not something that has something to say, and I don't find something valuable in that to share, I'm not going to post 3 times a day just to be posting.
Exactly. And sometimes,
so, and that's what I feel like you do. You don't post fluff just to post. Be posting something.
Yeah,
so that's and things I
Well, thank you.
appreciate about
Thank you.
your
And
page.
yeah, I try not to do that. I mean, and there's days that I don't post anything. And sometimes life happens, I can't just stop to make a post sometimes. I mean, everybody has things to do. So, I mean, it happens sometimes. But of course, coffee, that's my weakness. I have to post about coffee from, time to time. So, I mean, but that's like my writer's juice, it keeps me going. And then of course, content, for writers, whether it's something that I've published, something that I'm writing, or if it's just, writing tips or quotes or something to kind of lift someone else up that might be in a writer's block, or just kind of a.
And what you did is
No, you're
I
fine.
totally interrupted.
Good.
So one of the things I like that you did for me as a writer is you introduced me to a Facebook group, and it was a closed group for writers. And so, I had to answer the questions to be able to, be allowed into the group. But I found it to be a very supportive community that was very active, and they had writers blog, writing
Yes.
prompts. And then one of the my latest book that I was writing, I could not figure out a backstory to how these two people met. Like, I had these two characters, and I knew where they were in this moment in time, but I needed a backstory. Like, how did they meet? And the people in this community, this Facebook group, were so supportive, and they like just threw out all these suggestions. And the funny thing is, I didn't pick any of those, but the answer came to me later on in the shower. I was like, but just knowing what it was not helped me,
To
point me
what
to what
was.
I felt the
Yes.
answer was.
And that's
Yes.
helpful.
And so
Yes. I mean,
I
and sometimes you can get inundated with suggestions and not take any of those suggestions, but it kind of turns that part of your brain back on to where you're not the one that's thinking all of these suggestions. You're not the one that is trying to visualize all of these meet cutes and everything. And other people are doing it for you by giving those suggestions. So that kind of gives your brain a moment to refresh itself, and then it does hit you. And it's so funny that you say in the shower, because so many things hit me in the shower all the time. And
I think it's
I think
because
so
we're
too. That's like
alone,
our
right?
small little itty bitty time to ourselves that, we can actually think. So yeah, apparently a lot of people, kind of get some good ideas going in the shower. And I thought about getting a grease pencil.
Yes.
And I actually tried that once, so that way I could write things in the shower, but my tile's too dark.
I did not consider
Yeah,
that. I
my
hadn't
tile's
thought
too
of
dark
that.
though, so it didn't work. I was kind of disappointed. So
I know when I was a little kid, I had one of those
yes,
bathtub crayons that were
yes,
all
they
the
still
rage,
make those.
but
They do.
for adults.
Hey, we can make it for adults, okay? It doesn't say just for kids on there.
That's true. That's true. Well, I guess so. That would be another thing I would recommend. I have found most valuable is to find a community, and not just something that says
Exactly.
community, because I'm not. I have several different groups I'm a part of, but one of them is like so huge that it feels very
Yes,
impersonal. Like, I'm not connected to any of these people. These people don't know my
exactly.
name, nothing.
Exactly.
So if you can find a community that actually feels like a writing community, or whatever your interest
Definitely.
is, where you feel heard. Like, if you put something on that page, you're going to get some responses that are specific
Yes.
to that, and not being ignored, or said, you're not, throwing judgment. Like, do you really
Right,
belong in this
exactly. And
group?
that is so important, because being a writer, there are times that it's very isolating, and you
Mm-hmm.
you can try to bounce things off of your spouse or your partner or your friends, and a lot of times they look at you like you're absolutely nuts, and they're like, I don't know. I have no idea what to tell you. So having that community, whether it's on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, a friend of mine, he has a critique group that he's a part of, that is held at his local library, And so there's a lot of places, just check with your libraries, and call and see if there's critique groups there and how you can get a hold of them. Just show up one day and say, hey, this is who I am. Just try to find, even just little groups that get together at coffee shops or something. I mean, there's always something out there. You just have to really search for it. And it can be very beneficial, very beneficial.
Okay, I think one of the things we have not conveyed to our listeners is what type of writing that you do, because that is also very different from what I write. So I think if people are interested in that genre, that tell them what you do.
I write a little bit of everything. Basically, anything that pops in my head. Contemporary Gothic literature, cozy mystery, thriller, flash fiction. It just, whatever pops in my head. I mean, there is just something mythological to writing itself, I think. Our characters come to us. I don't think that we create them. I think that they come to us and they tell us their stories. So writers, we're a bunch of mediums, is the way I look at it. So I don't think that I could just stick to one specific genre.
I yeah, I think what you have uh, written some about is romance, right? You've
A
written
little, a
a
little,
little
there's some
romance.
romantic components. Yeah. So in
Okay,
my Gothic
okay.
lit, there are some romantic components. A thriller that I am working on, there are some components there. I don't know that I would necessarily call them romantic, but there are some, little scenes here and there. And, but so romance is not really something that I have actually sat down to write. I don't know that I would. It's not normally a genre that I actually read. I have read it just because I think that, everybody should read a little bit of everything, because how else will you know if you like it? But I never written an actual romance novel. I mean, no telling what the future holds, but I have written some things that have romantic elements.
Well, I think that's maybe maybe that's what I'm thinking of is there have been some sensual
Yes.
elements, and I guess that that's just part of the
Yes.
human experience is including that. Maybe you're not writing towards that end, but you
Yes.
include that, which is just I think part of you in my journey normalizing some of these things that we were taught
Yes.
erroneously that
Yeah.
didn't exist or should never be talked about
Right.
or just
Exactly.
you name it. So
Exactly. And I mean, and like you said, it's human nature, it's life, those types of relationships and, encounters, and we all experience those things. And so whenever you're writing and you have, these characters and that's where it turns, I mean, we want readers to fall in love with our characters and we want them to have a relationship with these characters. And as we're writing them, we're writing their story and we want them to be as real as possible.
one of the relationships that you talk about that's a real mirror is in the lane you write about a
Yes.
sisterhood. These two women are very close sisters. I cannot speak towards that because I have no sister, and most of the sisters I know about, um, they've had very rocky relationships. But I know that is not the case with you and
It's
your
not.
sister. So
And
I, it has been refreshing to like see what's possible. Like
well,
it's very
thank
beautiful
you.
to read
And
about.
mine and my sister's relationship is different, that's for sure. I only found my sister last year, so we didn't grow up with that sibling rivalry, and we didn't grow up with, any kind of sibling issues and fights and, favoritism, or we didn't grow up together.
So you get the
Right.
good
So we didn't
parts.
get the ugly parts.
You got to
Right.
skip all
So,
of
I
them.
mean, once we found each other, we just kind of hit the ground running, and we talk every single day. And a lot of the conversations and the banter between the sisters in the lane is very mirrored off of myself and my sister. That a lot of our banter and, being smart mouths and things like that, that's kind of how we are. So it's organic, it's original. And that's how I would talk to my sister. That's how she talks to me. So that's just kind of how I was able to convey that between the two of them.
I thought it
Thank
was
you.
very beautiful. So this last segment is called Teachers. One of the podcasts I listen to is the Lifestylist podcast. And Luke Story ends his pods by asking his guests this question. And I loved it so much that I'm including it in my podcast. Who have been 3 teachers or teachings in your life that you might share with our audience that they could go research and also learn
Oh my
from?
goodness. There are so many teachers, so many teachings. I would have to say, I don't know that you could research this one, but I think it was either my freshman or my sophomore year of high school. My English teacher, Mr. McCullough, he was amazing. He was always very supportive of his students, very encouraging to his students. And when I was in his class, it was around the same time that Stephen King's Rose Red was on TV. Do you remember that movie?
I know for a lot of my growing up years, we did not
Oh,
have the
gotcha.
TV in the house. And even if there was, Stephen King would
Yeah,
not have been
definitely.
allowed on
Most definitely.
TV. And yeah, growing up, we
Yes.
had a pretty strict. Sometimes I was allowed to check out books from the library that may have had some elements as long as my
Right.
mom didn't know about.
But
Okay,
well,
but go
that
ahead.
movie, it was like a TV movie, and we were talking about it one day, and he asked if I had read the book, The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer, and I hadn't, but I was really excited about it. And so I came to class the next day, and he gave me the book. He had the book, and um, I mean, we would just talk about writing, and of course authors, and shared horror movies that we both enjoyed. And he would tell me, if you want to be a writer, I know that you could do it, but you've got to make sure that you write, and you have to write every day, even if it's a little something. It doesn't have to be a story, it doesn't have to be a book, but just write something every single day, and you'll be a success. And I never forgot that. And I actually got to run into him during the homecoming parade last year. And so I got to talk to him about everything, and it was just really cool. So I was able to thank him for encouraging that, and for telling me to write something every day, no matter what, because I did that. I've always written a little something every single day. And I think that has helped get to where I am finally breaking out of scribbling on a notepad to actually writing a novel, which has been a really awesome, hard, but awesome process. Some other teachings I think that, we can look at, for me anyways, as writers, look at other authors. Stephen King, he has a whole book on writing, and it's a great book. I mean, it kind of opens up to his life personally and how he got to where he is. And I mean, so many things that he says are, like one of his quotes is, "A story should entertain the writer too." And that I do too. I mean,
I
that's
love
so
that.
true. I mean, if you're typing away and you're crying profusely, and you're in like this agony, your readers,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to feel that too. I mean, if you crack yourself up, you're not nuts. That's good, because more than likely your readers are going to laugh too. And so I think that that's like really good sound advice. And another one that, he says is, oh my goodness, what is it? Trying to think of the words, that a writer must write a lot and read a lot. So yeah, if you want to be a writer, you must do two things above all: read a lot and write a lot. So that's so true. I mean, there's how many thousands of books out there? There's millions of books out there, and we can learn from that. I mean, there's different writing styles. We can develop what we like and what we don't like. And just the eloquence of the written word in so many different forms is pretty amazing. So I definitely like that advice, and I read everything. I will read anything and everything. So I'm all for it. And just, let's see.
I will just also remind you that you're running out of time to use
I
your word.
used my word.
Mythological.
I did.
Did you really? Where was I?
I used my word whenever you were asking me about like what genres and things that I write.
Oh gosh.
I did.
You did.
I said
You
that
totally
there was
did.
just something mythological to writing.
Oh
So
gosh.
I
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you for keeping me in mind.
And then another teaching, there's so many teachings with it, but like a Zen lifestyle. And yes, I still get testy and temperamental from time to time. So I am not going to lie and sit there and say that I am completely namaste. That is not how that works. But I think that there's so much to that lifestyle that is so beneficial for every day, no matter what you're doing. I mean, doing one thing at a time, doing it slowly and deliberately, and doing it completely, and doing less, which is something that you don't hear very often. You're always basically told that you need to do more, you need to do more, you need to do more. No, you need to do less. So that way you can be more present for not just your family, but for yourself. Because if you're giving everything of yourself to everyone else, then what's left? You're exhausted. You have no energy, and you are depleted of all your own natural resources, so do less. So that way you've got something left over at the end of the day for yourself, to give it to yourself. And just,
oh my gosh, I knew there was a reason we were friends.
Definitely.
I totally needed to hear that.
And that positive mentality. And it's hard. And do I fail sometimes? Absolutely. We all do. But I try really hard to always find the silver lining in everything. That there's always, I mean, you can't have a positive or a negative without a positive. There's that balance. So there's always that positive thing, that's there. You just have to really dig down deep and find it. So regardless of what the situation is, there's always something positive to take from it. There's always a silver lining. And it's taken a very, very long time to get to that point. And whenever I was a kid and the way I grew up, somehow it was a little easier to have that mentality. How, I don't know, but it was. Maybe because we weren't in the age of social media and we didn't have all the technology and everything that we do now. So maybe it was easier. But going through certain things in your life that knocks you down so hard, sometimes it's hard to find that silver lining and get back up and brush yourself off and keep going. But once you do, it becomes easier. And waking up in the morning, it's going to be a good day. Yes, my body hurts from head to toe, but I woke up. So it's already a good day. I mean, that's...
You know what? I'm going to interrupt. That reminds me. I felt like we were wrapping up, but maybe you want to say a little bit of something about your health. I know that you deal with. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
And the organization you
Yes,
support and the
the Immune
research?
Deficiency Foundation, people that have primary immunodeficiency, which I'm under that category, with common variable immunodeficiency. And it is there's several different forms of immune deficiency. Mine specifically, I am what's called IgG deficient, so the immunogamma globulins. I don't produce enough. I hardly produce any. And those are those magical little proteins in your body that fights off infection, it fights off illness, it creates antibodies to fight, different illnesses. And for those who don't produce any or don't produce enough, we get basically an immune system in a bottle. So I get mine every 4 weeks. And beautiful people who donate plasma, keep doing it. It really does save lives. Whenever I started working in healthcare, I started working at a plasma center, and I don't think the donors really think that it saves lives. They just go in, they do their thing, they're done. But it does. It saves lives every day. I mean, people donating plasma, I get to stay around for my kids. I get to have a better quality of life. And I get to write, I get to create, I get to be present with my friends and my family. And it's a beautiful thing. So definitely, anybody that has any kind of immune disorders, further research, immunedeficiencyfoundation.org is an amazing place full of resources and information.
Well, I love, I'm an action person. I like to do things. And so I love, where if there's a problem, someone that suggests something you can do about it. So continuing to donate plasma, I, I
Yes.
love that there's an action plan, some
Yes.
way that we can help instead of just
Yes,
reading about
definitely.
it. Or when did you find out about that? I know like some people who have dealt with immune deficiency issues,
Mm-hmm.
lupus and other things, sometimes they struggle with
Oh,
not being
yes.
believed. Maybe there's a lack of energy or something, and like, it's
Yes.
just in your head. You want to get out of
Mm-hmm.
something, or you want to give yourself an excuse not to show
Yes.
up fully
Yeah.
present.
Even now.
Um,
Oh my
have
gosh,
you
all the
faced
time. I
that?
still face that. And I've had this my whole life, but it took a very long time before I got diagnosed. I was 27 before I was diagnosed. And it's not just with the immunodeficiency, it comes with a whole slew of autoimmune diseases as well. So I've got a whole laundry list of that on top of it. But I've got a treatment plan with my doctors, and I just do what I can do. But it did take so many doctors, so many years. And doctors themselves, you're a hypochondriac. You just want medication. No, I don't want medication. I don't want something to mask what my symptoms are. I want to know why.
You just want to feel
Right.
better
It's like, I want to know what
organically.
the
Yeah.
reason is. What's the cause? I don't like a Band-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know the reason. And then what can we do to fix it? But when I was in school, teachers, you're just wanting to get out of gym. It's like, I don't even go to gym. I play soccer. It's like, I'm not trying to get out of anything. And, absences, school absences, like, oh, well, you're skipping, you just don't want to go. It's like, okay, I've maintained my GPA. I have good grades. I'm sick. And I don't know what's going on, but I'm sick. Don't know what to tell you. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't fake 104 fever. I can't fake, this, that, and the other. But even now, it's kind of hard with some people. You never know how you're going to wake up in the morning, and you don't know if you're going to wake up with a severe migraine. You don't know if you're going to wake up with so much body pain from head to toe that you can't move. You don't know if you're going to wake up hugging the toilet for the whole day. I mean, you have no idea how you're going to wake up. And you could even wake up great. Everything is peachy keen. And within a few hours, you're just, you smack a wall and you're just done. And you have no energy. And you know that you have to pick and choose what you do. Sometimes you have to take away from, like, okay, well, I was going to go meet with friends over here to do this, this, and this, but I also have a school function that I have to go to. So I need to skip out on my friends so that way I can be there for my kids. And then a lot of times you get that backlash, like, well, that's really crappy. You couldn't have given us a heads up, or, I think you're faking it. I think you're milking this thing, or, I mean, just whatever the case may be, you get a lot of backlash from people. And it used to bother me, but it doesn't now, because I know my truth. I know how I feel. I know how much I can give and where I need to draw the line. And I try to make it a point that I am there for everybody, that I have enough energy to spread it around and, give my 100%. But there are some days that you can't give 100% to every single person. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to not be able to give 100% to every single person. And you need to have that downtime. You need to have some time for yourself and to recuperate. So that way you're not having to borrow your spoons for the rest of the week. There's this whole spoon analogy that is absolutely amazing, that I definitely suggest anybody Google, spoons, and, the spoon analogy. It's an amazing read. Highly recommend it. And I think that it also helps people understand a little bit more with people who have autoimmune disease or immunocompromised or anything like that. It kind of helps shed a small bit of light onto it.
Okay, so you mentioned that it took a while to get diagnosed,
Yeah.
and you were 27. What was the tipping point? Like, what specialist did you finally come across? What testing was it that, finally
Well,
brought some
actually,
answers?
I was sick as a dog. I had bronchitis, which I, used to get all the time, and it always turned into pneumonia. And I was just so incredibly sick that I knew that it was about to turn into a hospital visit, and I was able to get in with my doctor, but he was busy. So I saw his nurse practitioner, and his nurse practitioner, he looked me up and down, and he listened, and he kind of did a few things. And he's like, okay, I think you have this. I think you have this. He was able to diagnose me with 5 different things just by looking at me. And then he did tests, of course, to confirm it. And then he got me to all the specialists that I needed to go to. And I was dumbfounded. I'm like, okay, this has been going on my whole life, and I've never been able to get anybody to listen. I've had all of these tests done before with these numbers just like this, but still nobody has listened. I've been turned away. I've been told to, take an antidepressant. I've been told to, go to therapy. I've been told, just all these crazy, horrible things that nobody should ever be told by their healthcare professional whenever they have a legitimate problem. And it took this guy like 5 minutes to figure it out and to get me to all the right people. He was definitely a godsend. My children still go to him. He's just amazing. So sometimes it's a lot of trial and error, and it takes a lot of people before you finally get somebody to listen. But once you do, don't let go of that doctor. keep a very tight grasp on that doctor, because they will always be in your corner no matter what.
I want to thank you so much for opening up and sharing so much of your story. And it has been great in Sheffy's
Yes. Well,
Sandbox
thank you for
today. Thank
having
you for
me.
joining us.